Hello, and thank you for watching. This is tutorial number 1 on diagramming sentences. Now, I teach grammar through sentence diagrams because I believe diagrams let you see your sentence pretty much the same way your reader's mind sees it. For instance, a storyline displays all the key elements of the sentence at the top of the diagram. The modifiers all hang below it. And all modifiers are diagrammed exactly the same way. Whether a word is an adjective or an adverb or an article or an infinitive or a possessive, a participle, makes no difference. So you don't really need to worry too much about memorizing these arcane terms for all these parts of speech. Now, you do need to know, though, when you look at a sentence, what words or phrases are functioning as modifiers. That's what's important. If they are describing a word or a phrase, if they are giving additional information or answering questions about a word or a phrase, they hang below it on slanted lines as modifiers, regardless of what particular type of speech they happen to be. Our sample sentence appeared in the annual report of one of Australia's biggest banks. So this means it's about as close to the essence of business writing as is possible for a sentence to get. Listen to this. Key drivers of the group's earnings were continued leadership in business banking, combined with strong growth in deposits and mortgages in personal banking. Now, the first order of business in drawing a diagram is to draw a horizontal line and then draw a vertical line separating it into two parts. Now, I'm going to label these for you. We'll call this the subject area. And this we're going to call the predicate area. Now, once we start analyzing our sentence, all of the words that form the subject will be on this side of the dividing line, and all the words that lie in the predicate will be on this side of that dividing line. Now, I don't want you to get hung up on these words. These are words that you will hear. They're important mainly as map references. The subject is the actor, and the predicate is the action, is a simple way of looking at it. Now, I'm going to just raise these up a little bit and get them out of the way because we're actually going to start analyzing the sentence right now. And the first thing to do is to find the word or words that form the actual subject of the sentence. And in this case, it is drivers. The subject will almost always be a noun or a pronoun. And I always highlight subjects in blue. Next, we'll find a verb. Verb is the action word or the state of being word. So what action are drivers taking, or what state of being are drivers inhabiting? And it is the state of being identified by the verb were. And we'll just make that bold, and I put verbs in red. Now, in doing the diagram, what you do is you actually write the subject in on the left-hand side of that line, and the verb just to the right of it. Next, we need to ask the question, if drivers were something, what were they? Well, key drivers of the group's earnings were leadership. That must be it. We'll make leadership bold and sort of a generic purple. Now, what leadership is, technically, is something we call a predicate noun. This means it's a noun that is in the predicate area of the sentence, but it refers back to the subject area. And I'm going to need a little bit of room, so I'm going to just move all this down a little bit, because here's how we actually do the diagram for predicate noun. We have a line running from the storyline pointing back toward the subject, because the word we're going to put in here, leadership, our predicate noun, is in the predicate, but it refers back to the subject. So this slanting, pointing line helps indicate that graphically. Now, having done just this much, this storyline is complete. And in fact, a properly diagrammed storyline is a complete sentence. It is what we call in grammar an independent clause. It has a subject and a verb, and that's all it really needs. In this case, we also have a predicate noun. These, look at all the words in that sentence, but these three words sum it up grammatically. That's why I call it the storyline. Drivers were leadership. Now, right away, you see there's something wrong here. Drivers and were are both plural. We expect there to be more than one predicate noun. Now, the next order of business is to identify and diagram the modifiers of the storyline words. So, first, what's a modifier? It's a word which usually answers questions about the word it's modifying, gives more information. For instance, we might ask the question of drivers, what kind of drivers, or which drivers? And the answer, of course, is in this word here, key drivers. Now, modifiers are put on slanted lines below the word they modify. And when you're doing this by hand, you probably generally will draw the line first and then write the word on it. Key drivers of the group. What sort of leadership? Well, continued leadership. So we have continued over here. Continued is a special kind of word called a past participle. It's the portion of the verb to continue, which we generally would say appears in the past, so it's continued. But it's not being used as a verb in this case. It's being used as a modifier. It tells us what sort of leadership. Continued leadership. And we can say exactly the same thing about combined. It's the past participle of the verb to combine, and it is also modifying leadership. What sort of leadership? Leadership combined. Now, we're going to say it's combined with strong growth. We'll cover that in the part 2 of this. For now, what we really want to know is that these two past participles, continued and combined, are both functioning as modifiers of our predicate noun, leadership. Now, all of the rest of the modifiers of the storyline words in this sentence are not single words, but phrases, prepositional phrases. Now, YouTube likes us to keep these videos to under 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap this one up here as part 1, and we'll start identifying and diagramming the prepositional phrases in part 2. So, goodbye for now. Click on part 2 to watch the rest of the tutorial. Thank you.